Welcome to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
Hello, Simon. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Baxter. How about yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. Feeling good, a little bit more relieved after the weekend that was in U.S. soccer. Not as happy about the Revolution, but still doing okay, though. And, what about you? How was your soccer weekend?
Mixed emotions. I still have plenty to say about our manager.
You have a Discarood full of motions?
I'd like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I've got mixed feelings, and I know we're going to get into that, but we got a few other things to say first, as we always do.
Absolutely, yes. If you enjoy listening to Two Up Front, we want to encourage you to go check out the show on Fridays on Sports Radio America from 2 to 5 Eastern. You can also get it on the TuneIn app and on TuneIn.com as well. You can find it on demand on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
You can find us on Facebook, Two Up Front. We are also on Twitter, at Two Up Front Soccer. We have our personal Twitter pages, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. Make sure you check out our website, twoupfrontsoccer.wix. That's wix.com/2upfrontsoccer. Got to make some updates to that webpage, which will be happening soon. But you can go there. You can find interviews that we've done with our past guests. You can find entire shows on there. Very soon, it seems like, or looks like, that we will have merchandise available within another week here or so. We're hoping to have that major announcement we keep teasing. But it looks like it's getting closer and closer to happening.
Absolutely. And speaking of interviews, we have two fantastic interviews on the program today. We will be joined in our second segment by Houston Dash and Australian international defender Ellie Brush. She'll be on to chat with us about the upcoming NWSL season in our women's soccer spotlight. And later on, a Wisconsin native and now Whitecaps FC and the USL side of Vancouver, Kyle Greig, a striker, fantastic gentleman, will be joining myself later on in the program due to the interview of how we structured it. Simon wasn't able to be there. It's irrelevant. Either way, Kyle will be here. Ellie will be here. We'll have a good time. We'll talk some soccer, and we'll go from there.
And on top of that, Kyle was also named captain of the Vancouver Whitecaps 2 team.
The captain of Whitecaps FC. I asked him about Blas Perez. I asked him about Wisconsin. I asked him about all kinds of things here. It's going to be a fun interview. That'll be coming up in our fourth segment. But we need to get obviously right to what everybody is still talking about, because it's only not even 24 hours removed from how it all shook out. The United States senior men's national team taking down Guatemala in the not second leg, but this the return. The return, yes. The return of it.
For the second half of the semifinals.
Yes. They beat them 4-0 in Columbus, which seems to be the best place for U.S. soccer to play any games. That's probably where they should just Columbus themselves should just bid to host a World Cup, because maybe the U.S. would actually win, I feel like, because the U.S. are now undefeated in, I heard the number, now the number's gone.
They won their qualifying match against Mexico in 2001. That's when the run started.
I think in Columbus themselves, they are 8-0-3, I think, in Columbus. So they've never lost in Columbus. But even still, on home soil for qualifying matches, they've got some ridiculous, like you mentioned, unbeaten streak as well. So the United States seems to be a good place for the U.S. national team to win, which might bode well for the upcoming Copa America this summer. But we don't care about that right now. We're still talking about World Cup qualifying, and then in a moment the Olympics as well. So 4-0 victory. Everybody was pushing the panic button. The Fire Jurgen Klinsmann banners were back out. Simon was picketing outside Klinsmann's house, asking for him to be fired after a 2-0 surprising loss when Carlos Ruiz found himself on the couch, called up, scored a goal, and They lost 2-0, and now they come back, and the United States looked really good. They held possession. They took good shots. The ball moved around really well. And
why? Why did that happen, Baxter?
Can you tell me, Simon? I feel like I don't know.
I'm not going to get as loud as I usually do, because I've been told by past people, hey, we get that you're angry, but you don't have to be so angry. Listen, Klinsmann comes out after the Guatemala loss, and if you remember when we were giving our predictions, Baxter,
yes,
I had picked the U.S., with a caveat saying if Klinsmann plays players in their primary positions, in their preferred positions. And, of course, we see in the Guatemala match he plays Yedlin at right mid instead of right back. He puts Jeff Cameron on the outside instead of playing him as a center back. What's interesting about that is just a few years ago, Klinsmann was saying that Jeff Cameron is definitely a center back. But yet he doesn't play him as a center back.
Yeah, I always thought he was a center back.
You've got Yedlin starting in the Premier League as a right back. You got plenty of other midfielders on the team, right? So he puts Mix Discarood as your the holding midfielder.
Center, yeah.
I forget what they call it now, but basically the guy that your defensive center midfielder.
Sure.
This screw doesn't play that. He's an attacking midfielder.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Klinsmann sets them up to fail.
Basically.
In Guatemala.
And they did.
And they did, miserably. So then you read this article that comes out where Klinsmann says, I'm not playing players out of position. I don't know what you're talking about. Look at their club records, and you'll see that that's where they're playing. And you look at the clubs, Yedlin played 2 times out of 15 games on the wing for Sunderland.
Yes. So, I mean,
he plays right back.
Yeah.
He plays right back for Sunderland.
That's what he made his name. That's how he's making his now millions in the Premier League because he did that so well for Seattle.
Jeff Cameron, where does he play for Stoke?
I'm pretty sure he plays center back, yeah.
Right? So finally, at the 11th hour, when it's most desperately needed, Klinsmann finally plays every player in their preferred position. And what happens? They go out and dominate.
I like that midfield. As much as I'm not a big fan of Kyle Beckerman, I liked the Zusi, Beckerman, Bradley midfield.
Well, it worked out well for that game.
Yeah, well, because
Beckerman is a defensive midfielder.
Because they were playing a slower team, though, as well.
Well, and they were able to slow them down. That's what we didn't see in the Guatemala game. All those players were out of sorts. You can't sit there and play right wing when you've been playing right back this whole time and expect this player to excel at that.
Exactly.
I've said it over and over. Klinsmann's got to stop experimenting. There's a time and place. And all the Klinsmann fanboys out there say, well, it's lack of talent. It's lack of talent. It is not lack of talent.
We've got a pretty deep pool, I think. We're okay.
Listen, and if that's where these players, that's where the argument is that it's a lack of talent, then I can use this argument against them. What they're saying is that American coaches do a better job of developing American players. Because if you look at Bob Bradley, you look at Bruce Arena. Bruce Arena took him to the quarterfinals in 2002. Bob Bradley took him to second in the Confederations Cup. Both Bradley and Arena were able to win the CONCACAF qualifying region with outstanding numbers.
Yeah.
Klinsmann has not done any of this. Arena and Bradley both won Gold Cups.
Yeah.
Klinsmann has not been able to do well. I guess he won one Gold Cup.
He did.
But then the one that really, really mattered, he experimented through the whole thing.
That's true. No,
right?
I agree with you on that one. And it's interesting, too. And, folks, I'm sure you can look at different sides of the argument, too, and say, well, the game's gotten faster since Klinsmann took over. So we're trying to figure out how to play that German machine to the American and the transition. I get the argument, like, defending him, but at the same time, I see your point as well, saying, well, hey, why haven't you done this? You've had 4.5 years. You should have done something relevant by now.
That's the whole point. He's been in there for 4.5 years, 5 years now. It's on him.
Exactly.
You can't keep laying this on the players. And if you're going to blame the players for it, I think that's absolutely ridiculous because these players keep being put in positions in which they don't play for their club teams. And to me, that's total arrogance on Klinsmann's part, saying, I know better than the rest of the world of where to play these guys.
I agree with you
But
on
then
that one.
again, it gets down to the fact that this was a must-win game. They don't win that game against Guatemala and Columbus. They don't qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, there was a 10% chance of them making the World Cup if they lost this game, and obviously they did what they needed to do.
Right.
And they looked like the better team from the get-go. There was nothing about Guatemala that I was like, like Guatemala was smaller, slower, far more inefficient watching this game. They just didn't look like they wanted to be there. I think they knew going into the game, like, look, we just have to get through 90 minutes and try not to lose too badly. And there was no urgency from the team at all, honestly.
No, it definitely looked like they were playing to draw this game.
They did.
Get a point out of
They were
Columbus.
hoping for either a scoreless draw or maybe to sneak a goal in. And there were one or two opportunities. I mean, Brad Guzan came up with some big saves late in the game. I think that's what Guatemala would kind of hope. They're like, look, let's wear them down for 80-some minutes and then try to go get a goal. Obviously, they were already down 4-0 at that point, though.
I'll tell you one thing about that first game. He also played Tim Howard out of position.
He did, yes.
Tim Howard belongs on the bench right now.
He does.
And I'm a big Everton guy. I've been a big Tim Howard fan. So I'm being completely objective about this.
Yes.
Tim Howard belonged on the bench.
Yes, and I agree. And I heard a recent interview Tim Howard did with the guys over at Men in Blazers, and they asked him, would you like to be on the World Cup roster? He's like, well, obviously that's any player's goal. If you're in the player pool, you want to be on the World Cup roster in Russia. And at this point, as a fan and as an analyst of the league and of the team, I don't want him on the team. I don't. He's going to be far too old. He will not be good enough to propel the U.S. to wherever they think they might go.
The only thing I would say to that is maybe you do have him on the team,
but he doesn't start.
Even as a third stringer, just for that leadership and guidance.
But do you quote unquote waste a roster spot on someone that's not going to play?
I don't think it's a waste when we're talking goalkeepers.
Yes,
you have to take 3 goalkeepers with you.
Who would you take right now? I'm assuming Brad. Assuming Guzan would be,
the way he played against Guatemala, absolutely.
Yeah, the 3 that we've got right now that were called up for this game would be Guzan, Howard, and David Bingham. I mean, those 3 are high-quality
Yeah,
keepers.
I want to see more out of Bingham. I mean, he's been playing extremely well for San Jose.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind when the World Cup comes around. We'll have to check in with Cropper and Horvath, who are on the Olympic roster. Those are some good goalkeepers right there.
Absolutely. I mean, you hear about Bill Hamid too, Sean Johnson, but
Yeah,
I'm not really sold on those guys. They've had plenty of time.
They've had time, and with the way the youth goalkeepers are looking, I think they're going to pass those guys up if they haven't already, to be honest with you.
I'd agree with you. Yeah, Horvath and Bingham are kind of going with the same haircut style too. I thought they were each other for a minute when I was watching the Columbia game. I'm like, did he fly to Dallas fast?
Speaking of players, though, younger players, Birnbaum did quite a nice job.
Yes,
against Guatemala.
Speaking of being thrown to the wolves,
right. And I understand that was out of necessity. Fabian Johnson's hurt.
Yeah.
Jonathan Brooks is
hurt. But he was
hurt.
played in a position, and I think that's why it worked, though, because he was played in a position he's used to playing. If Klinsmann had been like, Steve, I need you to play holding center mid, we'd have been like, sure, coach, but it would not have worked out well. Birnbaum, Jeff Cameron, two tall, strong guys. Birnbaum, second-year player in MLS. He's a very young guy. He was just in college 2 years ago. And now he's playing in World Cup qualifiers, and I know that's how the U.S. system works at times, but Steve Birnbaum, I've always been a fan of him since he's come into the league. It's fortunate that he plays for DC United, but he's a very good player.
He's a great player.
That's the thing about it.
And, having that speed with Yedlin in the back again was so refreshing to see.
Yes.
Castillo, Edgar Castillo, I have to say, he's still...
Why is he on this team? And play that ball as like the Premier League defender's ball.
Right.
That's the smarts, because you would not see David Bingham make that same pass,
right.
I don't feel like.
Well, and Zardes had the intelligence to make that run, to know where to go.
Yeah.
And that just, it confused the two backs for Guatemala.
And they both went, and then
there
was like, oh, perfect. As a holding center forward, you're like, oh, look, a ball, perfect, and then he knocked it in. I will admit, though, I was very disappointed with how Bobby Wood played in this game. A lot of missed touches, a lot of wayward runs. He had opportunities to do things in this game, but most of the game I was sitting there, because I've always been a closet Bobby Wood fan. I'd be like, look, I thought he was a good kid, growing up. He's scored some fantastic goals last year. I mean, against Germany, against the Netherlands, he made his name. Like, hey, guys, I'm relevant.
I wonder if the pressure of the game perhaps got to him, because those are friendlies, and those are those games where, if I produce, great. If I don't, it's Germany or the Netherlands.
Exactly.
No loss. But now you're playing in a game that is the most must-win game the U.S. has played in a long time.
Exactly. And you could tell that you could sense the frustration in his mind, because even the forward pool right now there's enough guys in the forward pool that you can be like, okay, who's going to emerge? And I think Zardes and Dempsey are... Because Josie, it's hard to know, because Josie's been battling injuries. Yes, I know he got a goal last night, but it was almost handed to him. But a goal's a goal, of course.
Now, I'm going to change things up just a bit.
Please.
First of all, before I do this, I want to comment on Molta, the goalkeeper for Guatemala. Let's not discredit the fantastic performance he had in the first game. Not too great in the second game, but he also his backs were not as well organized as they were in that first. But he made a lot of outstanding saves in Guatemala. But you imagine if Klinsmann had played this lineup in Guatemala.
Yes.
Right? So then that means the U.S. wins. Now they're sitting pretty. That also means then that a player like DeAndre Yedlin goes and plays with the Olympic team.
Potentially.
Zardes doesn't qualify for the Olympic team anymore.
No, it's too old.
There were a couple. Well, Jonathan Brooks would have, but he's injured as well.
He got a knee injury. Yep, he had to go home.
But there were a number of players. Was it Birnbaum? Is he still eligible?
Steve, I don't know.
Either way, there were a number of players that they were talking about considering sending over to the Olympic team, and Yedlin being the big one, which the Olympic team could have very much used Yedlin on defense against Colombia last night.
They did, and that's a good segue for it. Yes, they were. I watched the first 20 minutes. No, not even that much. 15 minutes of the game, and then I had to go and take care of a couple things. But the U.S. I mean, aside from looking like babies, they looked so young.
They looked so
young, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, okay, I get it. These are. But then I had the self-realization, like, okay, these guys are my age. Okay, I'm not old, but I'm not young at the same time. I'm like, okay, I get it. But they didn't look. They looked like they had the drive. They're like, okay, we know what we need to do. Let's go out and run around and play crazy. But a lot of these guys are still in college, are still trying to figure out their way in their lower teams. I mean, Will Trapp is just a man among boys. He's a fantastic young midfielder. I forget how young he is. I mean, he's a consistent, dominant starter for the Columbus Crew, which is great. But this team looked like they're like, hey, if we run around for 90 minutes and, hit some people and maybe take a few wayward shots, maybe something will go in. Obviously, they got an own goal. Yay, great. But
Pulisic, by the way, that's who else I was thinking
that'd have been helpful.
Could have played with them.
I'm glad that Klinsmann did sub him in, and I think everybody in the U.S. soccer world was like, okay, good, we've got him. And that was honestly the only reason he was there. I mean,
that's it. Yeah.
But in the whatever he was on for, 10 or 15 minutes, he and Ethan Finlay ran that game. Pulisic had the ball at his feet on the left wing. He ran through everybody. He almost scored a couple times. By the way, Ethan Finlay, he was not offsides. 100% not offsides.
I have to admit, I had rehearsal last night, so I was checking.
Okay, there was at least a half to not 3/4 of a Guatemalan player in front of Ethan Finlay before he made his run, before the ball was played, and the ref was like, offsides. And you could see Ethan Finlay was probably the last person in the stadium to find out about the offsides call. Because he celebrated, he was in the corner, he scored for his country in his home stadium.
Right.
I can't even imagine that feeling. And then they're like, you're offsides. And you could see him even like leaving the field at the end of the game, like looking at the refs, and like I saw Lee Win from the Revs like come over and they were talking to each other, and he was like, you weren't offsides. And he was like, I knew it. He was like, I knew it. He was thoroughly upset about it. But it was good to see younger, quote unquote, younger senior players do really well. And Ethan Finlay is one of those guys that some diehard national team fans have been saying, hey, when are we going to get Finlay in the lineup? When are we going to get some of these other guys in? And he did a very good job last night. Granted, he might have gotten that multiplier because he was at home, so that certainly helped. But at the same time, it was still a very good performance from them overall.
Well, and a few thoughts back on this Olympic team.
Please.
It really is so disappointing. This is 2 cycles in a row now where the U.S. is not going to be in the Olympics.
Yep.
And again, this has to fall on the technical director of U.S. Soccer, who happens to be Jurgen Klinsmann.
True.
There's at some point, there has to be accountability. Now, obviously, Herzog, who's the coach of the Olympic team, needed to plan better as well.
Mm-hmm. But
all three goals were scored by Colombia.
Yes.
It was an own goal by Colombia for the U.S. Jordan Morris looked terrible, not involved at all. And, of course, you can't be involved when the midfield can't get the ball up to you as well. In the defense, they played well for maybe the first 20 minutes, and then it was just confusion. As the English would say, they were totally 6s and 7s.
Yes. Well, what do you do if? And I understand like the fact that both games being scheduled at the same time, but if you had to go back for a second, like the results that still happened on Thursday or Friday happened the way they did. How do you structure these two teams accordingly?
Well, I go back to, and I know you don't want me to do this, but I go back to the fact that the way Klinsmann rolled out that lineup against Guatemala, to me, is one of the main reasons the U.S. looked like they did, because they weren't able to execute their overall plan of sending Pulisic, sending Yedlin over to the Olympic team and help them out.
Would you have done that, though, to begin with? And I know that was the big argument, though. Maybe
apparently
Yedlin and all them should have been there.
Pulisic was injured to begin with, which is why he didn't play in the first game. I think they... No, I say you still take Yedlin. I mean, it worked out well. They got a 1-1 draw in Colombia.
Sure.
But you win that game against Guatemala...
Yeah, that's a different. And then I feel like you almost send the house within reason,
right? And
just pack it in, and let the vets up top do their work. Obviously, at home against Guatemala, it would have been a different story.
But my overall point here, Baxter, isn't even just these 2 games. It's just a micronism of really what's going on.
Agreed.
It's 2 under Klinsmann's watch as technical director of U.S. Soccer. We have not qualified for the Olympics.
Yes, that's the honest truth about it.
And that's when you asked me at the beginning of the show, how are you feeling? Ordinarily, I would be fine, great, awesome. Now I hope Klinsmann comes to his senses and continues with a consistent lineup that looks similar to this. But you and I both know that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
But if he had played this way from the start, if he had put this lineup out there from the start, more than likely they win in Guatemala. They don't get their 21-game unbeaten streak against Guatemala snapped.
Yeah.
And they can send players to play with the U.S. Olympic team that perhaps could have kept this a draw at 0-0 or perhaps even win the game.
Exactly.
And now we're qualified for the Hex, or near qualified for the Hex, and we're qualified for the Olympics.
And everybody would have been happy.
Very much so.
And now we're not. Now we get one.
Now I'm only halfway happy.
And now you can make the argument too before we go to break about saying, well, the World Cup is better than the Olympics overall.
Sure,
if you had to take one,
but
yes.
You want to be involved in every world tournament that you can.
Exactly.
And now we're not for the second time.
But I wonder though too if the Copa America, since that's taking place here at home, how much tinkering, how much experimental will happen, how many younger these guys, now that maybe Andy Herzog might go back to Jurgen and say, hey, look, I had a couple young guys, maybe they might help in Copa America, get them some more experience.
I certainly hope so.
Maybe if the U.S. really gets behind the team, maybe we can make this our own Olympics. Because, winning a Copa America, winning a major tournament, I feel like would be huge. Would be huge. Yes, winning an Olympic gold medal is huge, but I think the Olympics on the men's side have lost their luster. It's a gold medal. I'm not taking anything away from an Olympic gold medal.
All I'm saying, and this is what your point is about Copa, is that it at least, when you're playing in the Olympics, you're playing in pressure games from the get-go.
True.
Well, and to miss out on that, guaranteed for young players, to miss out on that is a huge loss.
I'd agree with you. All right, we're going to run to a break. When we come back, Ellie Bush of the Houston Dash and Australian women's national team will be here with us on the program. You're listening to Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
All right, Simon, we've got a unique and exciting opportunity today to speak with one of the Houston Dash players for our women's soccer spotlight today. We have Ellie Brush on the phone with us today. Ellie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, guys. It's lovely to be on.
We're excited to speak with you. And right away, I haven't had the opportunity to speak with a true Aussie before, so immediately the little kid inside me is like, oh, this is so cool. So I'm not making fun of your accent. I love it, honestly, so it's going to be a pleasure. So, Ellie, preseason is rolling along for you guys, and how's everything starting to look down there for the Houston Dash?
Yeah, it's certainly rolling along. We've had 4 or 5 days already, so getting into the rhythm of training, and I haven't had a pre-season here, so I don't like to say I'm enjoying it, but no, it's going really well. The team's shaping up really nicely. I'm excited for the year ahead, actually.
Yeah, and actually, you're talking about preseason. If I understand this right, you spent a whole season in Australia, or maybe not a whole season, but the off season in Australia with kind of like your home club, Canberra United. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so not really an off season for me. I went straight home to Australia and pretty much straight into the Australian season back home, and yeah, got in the whole season there. We did pretty well, but got knocked out in the semis, and yeah, had a couple of weeks off, then into pre-season training before I headed over here, and now I've been here about a week and a half and settling in pretty nicely.
Yeah, I saw that probably something you don't want me to bring up, but the controversial goal that Sydney FC scored against you in that semifinal. Wondered if you wanted to comment on that at all.
Yeah, I know. We need a review into those referees, I think. I probably can't say that, can I? No, but actually, Lydia Williams was the goalkeeper that day, and of course she'll be joining the Dash as well. She actually flies in tonight.
Oh, fantastic.
Tonight, so I'm sure she'll have something to say about that as well. But definitely a foul. We got totally ripped off. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know we're not supposed to say this, but I'm on your side with that one.
I'd agree with you on that one, too. We've seen our fair share
of impartialities here.
Right.
No kidding. Absolutely. Well, I'm curious, too. You said you spent some time over in Australia. Now you're here down in Houston. Is there a difference, at least maybe in the climate aspect of it at all, or even the style of play that you've seen just in your first few weeks here with the Dash?
Yeah. I was obviously here through the season, or through most of the season last year as well, and the climate definitely a big difference from back home. It's still hot back home, but it's a dry heat, and just getting used to that humidity is something else. So can't wait for summer to roll around again. And but we'll try to use that this year to our advantage and really let the away sides know that they hate it here, and hopefully bring the worst conditions for them possible, which of course won't be the nicest for us as well. But we'll get through that. And I suppose the main differences are probably between Australia and here is in the speed of play. It just tends to be a lot more physical and fast over here in the States, and you've just got to be concentrating 100% of the time, or else somebody's going to take advantage of the slightest error. It's just really cutthroat, and you've got to be 100% committed and focused throughout the whole 90 minutes. And things that you might do poorly, bad touches back home, might not get capitalised on there, but you definitely notice that they do here, and that made me a better player going back home. And it was really noticeable stepping back to that league that I was a bit sharper than that time the year before. So yeah, it's doing great things, and I'm really enjoying the competitiveness over here, and it's obviously one of the best leagues in the world. So I'm enjoying the competition and the challenge, and hopefully the Dash will do very well again this year.
We're talking to Ellie Brush on Two Up Front here for our Women's Soccer Spotlight. Ellie, you've had some personal success. Obviously, you won a couple of championships in the W League over there in Australia, and you were the Dash's Defender of the Year last year. And, looking back on the 2 years the Dash has been in the NWSL, they were 9th their first year, 5th last year. What do you think the Dash has to do this coming season to perhaps get into one of those 1, 2, 3, or 4 spots?
Yeah, looking across the different teams, the league's obviously going to be really tight again, and we have to make sure that we gel really well as a team. It's good all these games coming up early in the preseason that we'll be able to get used to each other's playing styles a bit better this year, and really sort of work together to become a cohesive unit, the one that we all know what each other's doing. We're all on the same page. So it'll be a big part of my job to sort of try and lead the back line and make sure we're not conceding any goals at all, hopefully.
That's always the goal, yeah.
Yeah, that's my job done if we've got a clean sheet at the end of the day. So, then we hope that the flair that we've got this year up front looks amazing. It's already sort of starting to show in the early stages of pre-season, and I'm excited for what they can do, and hopefully, it'll be a great team to watch. I'm excited to get out there at BBVA very soon.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, the listeners of our show, Ellie, know that we do like to talk about American soccer on our show, obviously. And you've got two notable figures on the Houston Dash that U.S. women's soccer fans know. You've got Morgan Bryant and Carly Lloyd on your team. Can you talk a little bit about what it's like to interact with them at training and just have them on your team instead of on the international level where you might have to play against them at times?
Yeah, it's amazing having those two girls in the team. You notice their sort of step up in professionalism at training, either and then off the field, of course, as well. Just great players that we all try and learn as much as we can from each and every day. And it's great for the times that they're back, and they just sort of lift that level that little bit at training, and you see what they sort of have to put in to be that sort of next level of professional each and every day. And Mo's underrated, amazing player, I think, and Carl is just that next level as well. So what a pleasure to have them in our team, and I certainly wouldn't want to be coming up against them in midfield.
Right, and so speaking on the international level too, again on a more personal level for you, I know you've got a couple of caps with the Australian women's national team. I'm assuming those aspirations are still there to get back on the team. Has there been any talks with the national team program for yourself?
Yeah, certainly aspirations, absolutely. That's always there at the back of my mind. And after this Dash season last year, I went back home and was invited to a couple of camps. didn't end up making the sort of roster for qualifying. Didn't get that much feedback. I don't all I can do now is just have another great season here in Houston and hope for the best with the Olympics going, especially, and then going forward, of course, as well. But yeah, absolutely, one of my goals, and I feel confident that I could do a job there, and let's just hope the national team coach sees it that way as well. But yeah, right. All I've got to do is just my best every day.
One of the follow-up things with that too, Ellie, is I know at least in the men's game we hear all the time about, if you play for, the Premier League, you play in La Liga, you play in, these high-flight teams in Europe and such that, that helps you with the national team. I feel like playing in the NWSL, at least in my opinion, is semi-equal to being able to play some of that high-caliber English football just because you see all the big stars coming over to America now from all kinds of nationalities. So I feel like, at least in my opinion, playing in the NWSL might help your stock, at least in the national team coach's eyes. Do you agree with that, or do you see it from a different perspective?
No, I definitely agree with that, and was probably one of the main pulling factors of me coming over here, definitely for the Dash last year and coming back again this year. It's, I think, where I'll have the most potential to be looked at and to improve my game as best as I can, to be hopefully playing on that national team. And I got some great feedback last year when I came home that I was looking for an improved player. And
well, that's good. Yeah, that's what you want to hear.
Yeah. So,
well, that's good. Exactly, because what good would it be if you're not improving and such? So it sounds like you've made some pretty big strides in your career the last couple seasons, and it's obviously starting to take notice as well. I'm sure winning the team's Defensive Player of the Year last season certainly helped as well. So speaking of defense, speaking of the team as a whole, opening day is just a couple weeks away. You guys take on the Chicago Red Stars in your opening game, and it's a home opener as well. So I'm sure kicking off the season at home always makes for a good time. But playing a team like the Red Stars opening day does kind of raise a little bit of concern. You've got to deal with people like Kristen Press offensively, you on the defensive side having to worry about her. Do you have I know it's still early, I know the teams are still shaping up and all that, but have you already started to look ahead to that opening day and start to kind of get some of your notes down paper about, who needs to mark who and some of those things?
Yeah, we haven't as a team just yet. We haven't done our sort of scouting for them. We'll do that in the week, probably maybe 2 weeks leading up to that game. Just trying to focus on ourselves at the moment and get all that sort of right. But I certainly remember, I think it was Chicago actually, that we played in the very last game of last season, and I had to come up against Kristen Press, and it was a great challenge. It was great to play against her, and she didn't do much. She didn't do much all day actually, until she popped up and scored the equaliser late in the game. So a special player, and they're a special team. So we're going to have to do our homework and be prepared for that one. But looking forward to the home opener, and I'm sure I'll get a great crowd out there.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, yeah.
And you guys have the ability to play in. I don't want to call it an MLS stadium because you guys do share the field at times as well. But you guys play in BBVA's Compass Stadium, which is
beautiful park.
Bigger, gorgeous park. Simon's down from that Texas area from college and all that too, so he's used to all that stuff down there. But I have to ask this question as well, just because it's obvious that you have strong feelings and ties to Australia, and I need to ask how you viewed their, if you want to call it success or not, at the Women's World Cup this last year. Personally, Australia was my dark horse pick to go a lot farther than they did, and I was very sad when you guys did make an exit, a little bit too early of an exit, honestly, because your national team is honestly a lot of fun to watch. You guys move the ball really well, and you're an exciting team. So I'm just kind of curious to get from your home perspective what your thoughts were on the team doing, how they finished this tournament.
Yeah, I was impressed watching them as well. It was great to watch. As you said, they have a really sort of exciting brand of football that they play, and I was involved in a lot of that in the lead up to last year's World Cup. So I knew the sort of coach that he was and the philosophies that he's building, and it's building a great team, especially attacking wise. And
yes, absolutely.
Really impressed at how they're looking. So. They were again very good in the qualifying tournament. Came up against Japan, of course, as well, who they went out to in the World Cup that you were talking about, and beat them. What was the score? I think it might have been 3-1. So beat Japan the first game and looked, again, really, really really
and Japan's
good.
not going to the Olympics either, so that's a big win for them.
It was a massive shock. But I'd have Australia tipped pretty highly in this Olympics, actually. Better watch out, the world. They're coming for you. It's good to see. Yeah.
Well, that's a great note to end on, Ellie. Thank you so much for your time here on Two Up Front. We really appreciate it. I want to wish you the best of luck this season.
Thank you, Ellie.
And perhaps when you visit Chicago this year, Baxter and I can get down there and meet you face to face.
Absolutely, we'd love that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd love that. Absolutely. Let's
Fantastic.
set it up.
All right, Ellie, we'll make it happen. Thank you so much, Ellie Brush of the Houston Dash and the Australian international team as well. Thank you so much, Ellie. We will hopefully have you on the program again in the future.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for having me, guys.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Cheers.
We're going to run to a break. When we come back, we've got more exciting action to talk about. I'm sure something MLS-related is ready to spew from Simon's lips, and I've always got something witty to say, I'm sure. So we'll talk about that and so much more when we come back on Two Up Front right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
This is Simon Provan.
Ellie Brush, what a lovely gal she was.
She really was. Fantastic personality, very genuine, honest. It was great to talk to her.
Absolutely. All right, well, we are going to move now into the MLS side of things and take a look back at the 3 games that happened in Major League Soccer this last week. Only 3 games, obviously, due to some of the international games taking place as well. So MLS, as we mentioned last week, not needing to still play so many games during international breaks to stay relevant because of the size of the league and the growth and everything, which has been fantastic. So 3 games that took place. My New England Revolution played the first game on Saturday against NYCFC at Yankee Stadium. And let's be honest, it was New England got bailed out in this game thanks to a nice goal from Chris Tierney on a free kick, which is reason number 4,285 of why he should at least get an opportunity to go to the U.S. men's national team.
You know, one thing to be honest on that goal is it did come off a deflection. However, you create your own luck.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what he's been doing for the last 2 or 3 years.
It's one thing to be a fanboy of a not good player, but it's another thing to be a fanboy of somebody that is consistently good. And Chris Tierney, over the last 2 seasons, has completely come into his own as one of the best defenders, not only in attacking prowess, but he's a very smart defender as well. And I know New England has yet to win a game this year, but Chris Tierney at the left back spot with his left foot are very, very dangerous. He's got a very, very good curling free kick. He's very good at long ball service as well, and he just sees the field incredibly well. And if it's between Chris Tierney or Edgar Castillo starting at my left back spot, I'd rather have Chris Tierney personally from an overall perspective.
With the way he's looking at it, as you said, I mean, he's got not that a strong left foot is the only requirement of a left back, but you look at somebody like Steve Cherundolo, who did have a strong left foot.
Yeah.
He's got great vision of the field. I see that in Chris Tierney as well. So Baxter, I can't argue with you. I wouldn't mind seeing him at least given the opportunity. Left back is a continual problem for the U.S. national team, as I said before. So why not give somebody like Chris Tierney a chance?
Exactly. Yeah, well, going back to this game, though, as a whole, we finally saw Poku. He does exist. He finally made an emergence on the field. Didn't do a whole lot, unfortunately. Set up a few opportunities, but nothing ended up coming from it. NYCFC, though, getting a good team goal, as you mentioned, Simon, off the air as we were talking about the game a little bit. Tommy McNamara finishing off the work there from the team, but a nice little header there to
well,
rebound.
What you saw a lot is what I try to teach my young ones is as simple as it sounds, follow your shot.
Oh, yeah.
And you follow your teammate's shot, and that's exactly what we saw happen there was ping, 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 and finally, as you said, McNamara puts it away in the early on in the 10th minute.
I really don't feel like it's rocket science to follow up a shot. As a forward growing up, I always would tell the other people, after I would, take a shot too, I was like, look, we got to follow, even as coaching too, the little bit of coaching that I've done or some, training for younger forwards and stuff for high school. I'm like, no matter where the ball is coming from, crash the box. Always crash the box.
I think for the person who takes the shot, there's some human nature in there, especially if you're an American. You're playing golf and you hit a drive. What do? You stand there and watch your great drive.
Yeah.
You hit a home run. You sit there and watch the ball.
Watch it, yeah.
I think it's the same thing, taking a shot. Ooh, that's a great shot. Look at that thing. It's going to go in. It's going to go in.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it hit the post. Oh, I should have been up there.
Yeah, exactly. and that's coming of age sort of thing, too. As you get more experience and stuff, too. But you're right, though. That is more of an American thing where we just like to admire shots as they go instead of continuing on with the play. But New England, they have yet to win a game this year.
And yet they still set 1 point out of playoff position in the East.
Gotta love the East. They've got 3 points. They're 0-1-3 on the season, so they've only lost one game. So if you're looking for a positive, that is a positive, which is great. But now they look ahead this week. They will take on the New York Red Bulls. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show. I'm wondering what is going to happen with this squad, but I like watching NYCFC for their offense. Defensively, I don't feel like they're a very good team at all. Offensively, Villa, McNamara, Poku, all these guys that they've got. David Villa is ageless, I feel like. He's still running around making fantastic moves against these defenders that we saw him do at a World Cup a couple years ago.
Well, what's odd, Baxter, for me is, I agree with you, New York City's defense is so shaky. And when you got a team with players like Bunbury, Agudelo, Rowe, who should be playing much better than they are, it's almost shocking that they don't score more goals against a team like New York City. Now, maybe it is a matter, Portland started out with a ton of draws last year, and what did they do? They ended up winning the MLS Cup.
True.
So maybe that's what we see with New England. But these players who are usually producing, Agudelo goes out in the 57th minute. Bunbury goes out in the 80th minute. These are guys that, they're supposed to be the goal scorers of this team.
Exactly. No, I agree with you on that one. So hopefully New England can find a little bit of a path to a more promising, not only goal-scoring land, but a more consistent defensive land as well. And we saw Kofi go out with a red card in this one, a straight red card, only in the 51st, 52nd minute as well. So now the team will have to rebound and slide somebody in. Probably Daigo Kobayashi will slide in and play that center defensive mid next week, or on Friday night, I guess, against the Red Bulls, which he'll have to go up against a guy like Dax McCarty.
Now, am I right that Charlie Davies is coming back from injury?
Yes, Davies has been back and forth a little bit of injury recently, but the Davies Agudelo, neither of them are 100% healthy to my knowledge. But Davies did have, was it a hamstring? It was something, a minor injury. It wasn't like a tear or anything, but he had a small injury.
Yeah, the only reason I bring that up is he did enter the game in the 33rd minute, and he's producing. He got a couple of shots, one of them on goal, a couple of offsides, which is, you actually want to see your striker be offsides a few times, because that means he's trying to get himself set up. The only reason I was asking, I know you know more about New England more intimately than I do, but I was just curious as to why he wouldn't start in a game like this.
Yeah, and I think the fitness and the injury bit of it is the only reason about it. So when fully healthy, and I know this is a cliche thing to say, when fully healthy, the Revolution are a very good team, but it's very true, though.
I apologize. He didn't enter the 33rd minute. I'm sorry. He played for 33 minutes.
Yeah. So with that being said, NYCFC now find themselves sitting in 4th in the Eastern Conference with a 1-1-2 record. Not awful, not terrible, but if you look at the top 6 in the Eastern Conference, it's Montreal, Philly, Orlando, NYCFC, Toronto, and the Red Bulls. That just sounds boring. It's a very boring playoffs, personally.
Well, I don't know. You don't have Chicago in. You don't have DC United in.
Those guys don't belong in.
Who we got to talk about. Boy, DC United. What an embarrassment. Yeah.
FC Dallas continuing their dominant run this season. They take advantage of the fact that DC United had their water boy in the goal. There were still some good saves from the DC United goalkeeper, but at the same time, FC Dallas finally was starting to come back to their own, saying, look, we are one of the best teams in the league, and we need to keep pace in a very competitive Western Conference, so this win was very important for them, because now they're tied in first place with Sporting Kansas City.
Good teams beat good teams. Great teams beat good teams and bad teams. And FC Dallas right now is looking like a great team because they go into D.C. Everybody knows D.C. is just horrific this year. And, yeah, they didn't play the most pretty of football, the FC Dallas, but they still walked out of there with a 3-0 win. And Barrios was on fire this game. He was all over the place in the final third, putting in 2 goals, named Player of the Week by MLS. Mario Diaz. By the way, Baxter.
Yeah, Simon.
I bought Diaz in my MLS fantasy team.
Okay.
I put him in my starting lineup.
Okay.
I click save.
Sure.
All excited when I saw that he scored a goal and had a very...
an assist.
Got an assist, had a very fruitful game.
Sure.
And then I go on and find out that somehow he stayed on my bench.
Oh, how interesting.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
You are in first place in our fantasy league. I
got
dropped to second.
44 points this week. And this is a double week as well.
And that's the other thing that kills me now is now Diaz will continue to be on my bench because we can't make changes for this upcoming weekend.
You're still in second place, though, in the league.
Yeah.
I got my 44 points. You only got 13 this last week, so I'm ahead of you by 13 overall points.
And just think, if I had captained Giovinco my first 2 games, I'd still be ahead of you.
That's true.
But that's on me. But this week, I don't know what happened. I don't know.
Who knows? We'll have to figure something out.
But anyways, this was not the most prettiest of games. As I said, most prettiest. There's some other great English from your commentator.
We are good to go this week.
But FC Dallas did what they had to do. Urruti, that's who got the other goal. Still doing the same thing he loves to do, score goals. He did it a lot for Portland. He's doing it a lot for FC Dallas.
He was my captain this week. I got 16 points out of Maxi Urruti, and I still have one more game left for him as well, I think.
Now, if you're still looking for a goalkeeper in MLS Fantasy, and
we know a man,
and you have some cash to spend, David Ousted for the Vancouver Whitecaps. He is the sole reason, as we jump along to this game, that Vancouver won this game off of a questionable PK goal by Pedro Morales, but Vancouver wins 1-0 over a Houston team that, for the most part, just dominated. They had shot after shot after shot. I mean, they had, it only registers as 5 shots on goal. But for those of you who may be new to soccer, 5 shots on goal is actually a pretty good statistic.
On goal, yes, it's one thing, yeah.
But my goodness, I mean, Ricardo Clark himself had 4 shots. And you go down the list, Will Bruin had a shot. DeMarcus Beasley, a defender, of course, has a shot. Alex, the great midfielder, had a shot. Andrew Wagner, who has been playing fantastic this season, goes out in the 58th minute, but he has 2 shots on goal. So Houston was they were all over the place. How Vancouver got out of this game with 3 points all falls on the shoulders of David Ousted.
Yes.
He played the game of his life.
And if you're looking for a goalkeeper, as you mentioned in fantasy, he is worth, $6, I guess. Technically, is that how it's called, or $6 million?
$6 million.
$6 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
If he's worth $6, everybody go and get David. But actually, $6 million is still decent.
Technically, yeah, that's the high end for goalkeepers. Usually, you don't see a lot of goalkeepers go exceptionally high. So yeah, he's one of those guys. Go take a look at. I might try to rework my team a little bit because, like I said, I've got Bobby Shuttleworth and Josh Saunders as my goalies.
And that's the other thing. Don't make the mistake I made this week. You got to look at the youth teams as well. I had Jesse Gonzalez as my starting goalkeeper. Got excited when I saw the 3-0 win as well.
You're like, points.
He got called up by the Mexican national Olympic team.
Make sure to check your fantasy lineup at least more than one time in a week. And if you're looking for a good website, too, to get some information on rotowire.com/soccer. It's got all fantasy soccer, so if you play Premier League, anything else, too, you can get it that way. But it's good just to find out breaking information about any player in any league, so definitely go check that out.
Yeah, so just those 3 games this weekend because of all the international games going on. So we have a full slate of games coming up this coming weekend. You want to do predictions now, or do you want to do this? Okay.
I'm fine with that. Well, let's look back this last week. So recapping what we picked last week, Guatemala, USA, that first round. You took USA, I took a draw. We both were wrong. NYCFC and the Revs, I took a draw, you took NYCFC, so I got a point there. FC Dallas, DC United, we both took FC Dallas, so we both got a point there. Vancouver, Houston, you took Vancouver, I took Houston, you got a point there. We both took Colombia, beating the U-23 USAs, and that was a draw, so we didn't get a point there. And then we both took Mexico over Canada in that first leg, so we both went 3-3. Probably our best week so far.
Yeah, technically,
it was the best week we've ever had.
And technically, we were 4-3 because we didn't mark it down, but we talked afterwards how we both felt the U.S. was going to win in Columbus.
True. Well, I've got that included in Week 5 predictions, so that'll pad our stats.
Oh, good.
For
So
this one,
we get a win this week. All right, good.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. So we're both already on the board with that one, with USA beating Guatemala. So, all right, Simon, let's take a look at what we've got. Let's see. The Revs and Red Bulls Friday night. New England hosting. This is always a good rivalry. Anytime you get to see the Revolution and the Red Bulls battle it out. Neither team doing exceptionally well right now. They're both tied in points, although the Red Bulls are in the playoffs if they started today. They both have 3 points, but the Red Bulls actually have a victory.
And that's right. You would think the goal differential would be the first tiebreaker, but it's not. And I agree with this, actually. I prefer that the wins come as the first tiebreaker.
Yeah.
But this is in New England. I'm going to go with a New England win on this one.
Oh, interesting. Okay. See, as someone that follows the team fairly closely, it's hard for me to bend one way or another on who I think is going to do well, but I also hope/believe that the Revs win this game as well. Chicago and Philadelphia, traditionally a game we don't care about because these teams are terrible, but right now Philadelphia, they're second place in the Eastern Conference. They look like a good team. Is this another win for them against a bad Chicago Fire team?
No, it's a draw.
Why do you say that?
I don't believe in Philly quite yet.
Okay.
If they win this game, by the way, I had them at number 5 in my power rankings, just so everybody out there knows. We're going to skip the power rankings this week because there were only those 3 games. We will be doing them again on our show next week.
Yes.
But I am going to, I don't believe in Philly yet. Chicago is playing terrible.
I'm going to take Chicago.
You're taking Chicago. I'm going to still take a draw.
I'm gonna hope that Chicago. That's more of a charity bid for them saying. And I know I might be throwing that away, but I'm going to just put Chicago and say, hey, you know what, guys? Good for you. Get after it.
Right.
Colorado and Toronto FC. Still no Jermaine Jones. Still got to wait a little bit longer. Obviously no Tim Howard until the summer months. So
regardless, Colorado is playing quite well.
Yes.
And TFC has been up and down. They're going to get Michael Bradley back. I don't know if Altidore on a red card or not. I don't know if you can look that up.
Or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Set an intern on it.
But I tell you what, I'm going to take Colorado on this one.
Okay.
Like I said, they've been playing very strong. I like the way they're actually looking. They're very confident right now. This is TFC's 3rd or 4th game on the road yet. I think that's going to start wearing on them, especially with the international players that had couple of games on their legs now this past week. So I'm sticking with Colorado for my pick.
Jose Altidore is available this week, by the way. He did have a hamstring injury, but he's available off the bench. More than likely will not
And of course, he had a nice heads-up goal for the U.S. last night.
He did. So, sorry, say that one more time. Who are you taking?
I'm taking Colorado.
Colorador.
Yes.
Colorador.
Colorador Rapiditos.
Yes. Gosh, I don't know. I don't know who I want in this game. Neither team is really impressing me right now. Part of me wants to take TFC, but I don't know if that's actually a smart move, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Good.
Sporting Kansas City, RSL. I've got Sporting Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm going with Sporting as well.
Call us bandwagoners, but Dom Dwyer looks real good now. Real good. This game traditionally would be really good. FC Dallas and Columbus.
I'm going with FC Dallas. They're scoring machines right now. Mm-hmm. And Columbus is, I believe, sitting last. Yes, they're sitting last
in the East.
So, yes, I'm going to go with FC Dallas on this one.
I'm going to agree with you on that one as well. I would like to be proven wrong within a reason just because I'd like Columbus to get their act back together and make the East more enjoyable. And maybe this is the week they do it. Maybe they finally rise to the occasion, but I'm really doubtful. Seattle and Montreal. Montreal first in the Eastern Conference. Seattle dead last in all of MLS. They have no points. None. 0.
The only team, only team in the league with 0 points.
So do they finally win this week?
This is tough when you're playing against a team like, no, I'm sticking with Montreal. There's so many weeks I try to get really suave with my picks, but I'm going with the safe bet here, Montreal.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Seattle Sounders, on your first win of the season.
Probably, yeah. That's exactly. Vancouver, LA.
Who are you taking, Seattle?
Oh, I'm sorry. I've got Montreal.
Montreal, okay.
Well. Yep. Vancouver, LA.
Ooh, this is a tough pick too. This is in Vancouver.
Yep.
LA's been decent. I wouldn't say they've been lights out, whereas Vancouver's been playing quite well. They're tied on points, but Vancouver or LA has a game in hand. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm going to go with LA Galaxy because I think they're going to because I think they're going to win. I'm taking the LA Galaxy. There you go, folks. There is my very insightful comment. Wait, no, you know what? I can't do that. I haven't picked another draw yet. I'm taking a draw.
Oh, there
Vancouver
you go.
and
You
LA.
got to sport us at least one or two. So you're going to take a draw after all that back and forth. I'm going to go with the Galaxy this week. Gio Dos Santos is back in camp. Hopefully he will be back, and Nigel De Jong will be back as well.
Yeah, and then, of course, you got Ousted there to balance those guys coming in.
That is true.
But Vancouver's defense, as well as Vancouver was that last game with goalkeeping, Ousted had to be as good as he was because that was a pretty...
So there's an opportunity for that. Maybe he's still tired. You never know. Robbie Keane will likely not play in this game as well. He suffered a knee injury while on international duty with Ireland, so he will not be more than likely available for this game, which could play into a thing, but Josh Zard playing well. Could be a thing. San Jose, DC United.
This is probably the easiest pick for me, San Jose.
Yep, same for me. I already wrote it in before you even said it. Orlando and Portland, the evening game on Sunday night. Orlando, once again, they get Kaká back this week.
They do get Kaká back.
And it's in Orlando.
And Portland is falling into the old routine they had last year in which they play really well, but they can't finish. So I am taking Orlando on this one.
Okay, Orlando, that is who I have as well. So it could be an interesting week. We could both be horribly wrong. We could both be horribly right, as we know. Let us know your thoughts. Email us, 2upfrontsoccer@gmail.com. You can let us know on Facebook by writing on our Facebook page, 2upfront, or on Twitter at 2upfrontsoccer, at Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. You made it sound. Did you have something to say?
No,
I heard so I was like, yes. What are you going to say? No? Okay, well, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, Kyle Greig of Whitecaps FC will be here with us to chat a little bit about what it's like to be in the USL.
Well, he'll chat with you.
He'll chat with me. I make mention of you. Don't worry. You make a quick appearance.
Now I'm a little worried
It's good. It's all good, I promise. All right, we'll be right back with more on 2 Up Front right after this. Welcome back to another edition of 2 Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn, no Simon Provan, just for this interview, as you've been hearing the rest of the episode. Simon's been here with us today, chatting with us about all kinds of great things, but for this one specific interview, Simon actually had to run off and take care of some other things, so I have the opportunity to speak with Whitecaps FC forward Kyle Greig. He's got some ties to Wisconsin. He's now part of the USL side, Whitecaps FC, and he now joins us here on 2 Up Front. Kyle, thank you so much for taking some time today, sir.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're very welcome. All right, Kyle, well, for those of us that are here in the great state of Wisconsin, we realize that you have some Wisconsin ties, and I'm curious to know what your background is to the great cheesehead state.
I do. I was actually born in Stevens Point, but I moved at a very early age, so I don't remember living there at all. But my family, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles live in La Crosse. So
okay, fantastic.
I head up north every Christmas to spend some time with family. So definitely still am connected, even though I don't live there, obviously, now, but
sure.
I was when I was a baby.
What a small world. Yeah, my wife's family is actually from La Crosse, so I get to the Cooley region every once in a while, and actually my grandparents went to UW Stevens Point as well, so that's kind of funny
nice.
How small world it is.
Definitely, yeah. And my parents they went to University of Wisconsin, Eau Claire.
Okay, sure. Wow, that's fantastic. So how did you get your start in the soccer game? Obviously, we know that you are at Whitecaps FC right now, which is the USL side to the Vancouver Whitecaps. But talk a little bit about your soccer journey that now led you to playing professional soccer in the USL.
Yeah, so I started off. I played college soccer at a small NAIA school in Kansas, and it's pretty tough at a small school to get noticed by big MLS clubs or any professional club rather. And so I kind of went to some trial opportunities around the country, and was going to go to Sweden actually, and then I ended up landing a contract in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is in the USL. And then from there, the next year after that, I joined an expansion side, Oklahoma City Energy, which is the USL, and I was there for 2 seasons. And I kind of went there because it was close to home, because now I'm living in Kansas City. And so then after that, then I just took a leap of faith to kind of join the Whitecaps too, to kind of get myself closer to an MLS team, really, where day in and day out I'm being evaluated. And obviously the goal for me is to play in the MLS. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to come here and really develop and be in front of the first team coaches.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, looking back at your stats, you have 22 goals and 4 assists in your 3 USL seasons. You helped Oklahoma last season get to the Western Conference Final, and then you also were the team leader in goals with 9 in 2014 for Energy. So Oklahoma kind of seems to have that special place in your heart a little bit too. And there's even rumors that they might get a pro team at some point. And do you think that might would that drag you back to that area? Not drag is the wrong word to use, but that might entice you back to that area if they were to get a pro team at some point?
I mean, to be honest, I'm always open to playing anywhere that there's an opportunity to play at a higher level. I'm always willing and open to try that. That's kind of why I decided to come here to Vancouver, is to put myself really in the best spot. And it's the hard part about being a professional is you don't know what the right decision and how that decision is going to play out, but you kind of just got to make the decision wherever you just kind of go with it and just do your best.
Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. How much time do you get spending around the first team at all, since you are part of their second team, I guess, in terms of being with Whitecaps? How much time do you get to see like some of those other strikers in the team, like Blas Perez and those other guys that they've got?
Yeah, well, our first preseason game, Blas Perez had just kind of got in. He was just finishing his contract and getting all that sorted. So he actually played with us in our first preseason game against University of British Columbia. So I mean, from the start, pretty much I'm around those guys and kind of see where I need to be, or talk to them for advice and things like that. And then even some midfielders. So Christian Bolaños is a Costa Rican international, and he's coming down and training with us last week because he was on suspension from the league. Mm-hmm. So I mean, we're constantly interacting and training, and being able to really use those resources in the coaches and the players to kind of hopefully make us better and get to where they're at.
Do you like the fact that a lot more MLS teams are starting to get a partner club, either with the USL or NASL teams? I feel like that, at least from an outsider's perspective, as someone that covers the league, I feel like the partnership has started to really benefit. But on the player side of it, do you think it does help the players grow a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. I think being in Oklahoma City, we were partnered with, when I was playing there, we were partnered with Sporting Kansas City, and just that relationship between Sporting and Oklahoma City was not as strong as if an MLS team were to put their own USL team in. And so it's in the USL, or guys in the USL really fighting for a spot on the first team. So I think it's a huge benefit.
That's fantastic to hear. Now, you guys have a opening season just a couple of days away. How is the team looking, and what are you most excited about? And are there some teams coming up that you're like, hey, I can't wait to play that team in USL this year?
I mean, obviously, I'm very excited to play Oklahoma City because that's where I came from. I think they're our fourth game of the season. We play them at home, so I'm excited to see some of my good friends and old teammates and really get to battle out against them. But I mean, I'm just excited for the season and really just to start playing games that really your preseason games mean something because you're preparing for the season. But I'm really excited to start playing for 3 points, really.
How big is the Cascadia rivalry in the USL clubs? I know here in MLS we hear about Seattle and Vancouver and Portland. The Cascadia Cup, they're duking it out all year long. But does that carry over to the USL sides as well?
Yeah, it does, because there are guys on the first team that are getting loaned down, and even the guys that are playing for the Whitecaps residency. There's a huge Cascadia rivalry between those teams, and so although it's new for me, I'm aware of it, and if I see that how important that is for my teammates and the organization, then I'm going to fight to get those special 3 points.
Absolutely, yeah. For those of us that cover the game, we always hear about that and see that anytime there's a Cascadia game on the schedule, our eyes are hardly attuned to that game, and I'm curious to see, now especially the USL this season too, if that carries over a little bit more. One other question I have for you too, in terms of expansion a little bit too with MLS clubs. We hear about all these other MLS teams that continue to come into the league at all. Do you feel like there's maybe one area of the country that needs to get a couple more teams in the area, or just do you feel like the way the expansion has been going so far that it's the league is on the right track?
I think it's on the right track. You see Minnesota is going to be coming in soon.
Yeah.
And then there's been talks even of like some I guess some markets such as like St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
St. Louis is a very historic soccer city, and obviously I'm from Kansas City, so sporting's a big deal down there. So I think it'd be nice to get more, Midwestern type teams. I understand that, that in the Midwest soccer is still growing a lot, but I think the league is doing well to kind of fulfill the markets that are going to help the league kind of grow.
If you were MLS commissioner for a day, where would you put a team if you had the opportunity? So you could put it at any city, anywhere in the country, regardless of size. Where would you put one?
It's a tough one. I really do think Arizona is a huge market. I'm throwing a little curveball, but my grandma and my aunt live down there. And
sure.
My grandma or my aunt is a kindergarten teacher, and there's a lot of obviously Hispanics and things like that. And I know down there it's just soccer is just a big passion for kids and a lot of the Hispanic culture. So
absolutely.
I think that'd be a good place.
And we hear that all the time too. MLS teams and even USL and NASL teams doing preseason down in Arizona as well. So you feel like, well, hey, if they continue to do preseason down there, who's to say they can't put a team in Phoenix or Tempe or some of those other places as well? Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Kyle, a couple other questions here for you before we let you go. Talking with Kyle Greig of the Whitecaps FC, the USL side of Vancouver. Talk us a little bit about you as a player specifically. You're coming at 6'2", 185 pounds. Every forward's got their different style that they play the game. I played forward as well throughout my high school and college days as well. I was a little bit leaner. Same size, a little bit leaner though, so I was more of a speed guy, didn't have the technical side of things, but you've got a little bit more size on you than I did. I mean, I'm about 6'1", 170, but what attributes do you use when playing your game, or different tips and things that you've used and that help you score all the goals that you've been able to do so far?
I think I'm kind of a blue collar, hardworking type of forward. I don't do anything too fancy. I'll use moves as practical, but otherwise I'm a pretty standard, center forward, number 9 forward that tries holding the ball up to the team and then getting myself in dangerous positions as well to get on the end of crosses, set pieces, and through balls and stuff. So I think a little bit more blue collar, like I said, hardworking, that I kind of just like to grind out and get myself in the right positions. And so I'm always learning as well. So I am learning, the more tricky runs and things like that off the back shoulder of Vax. But I think my foundation kind of comes from just, hard work and really using my athleticism and strength to score goals.
And one of the other things I'm always curious to ask about forwards too, especially, and at least for me, I've got some. Is there a goal or two that you've scored anytime throughout your career that really stands out to you as saying, wow, that was a pretty darn nice goal, honestly? Because, I mean, we all, we try not to be too boastful, of course, as I'm sure you know, but it's like, hey, even as a player, sometimes when you score goals, you're like, that was a pretty darn nice goal. Is any moments like that stand in your head at all? Or you're like, oh, that went in? Like, wow, okay, that was kind of cool.
The one that really sticks out to me is the first goal I actually scored as a professional. It was my first game, first start.
Wow,
I was in Wilmington, and my teammate and actually roommate played a ball, just a square ball across the top of the 18, which is hard for a forward to kind of hit a ball that's coming square to you, and I hit it first time, and it kind of like curled into the top right corner, and so that one sticks out for me probably more because it was my first professional goal.
Yes, yep.
But I don't know. I haven't really scored too many, big highlight reel type, Sports Center top 10 goals, but which doesn't matter to me because a goal is a goal, whether it's being in the right place at the right time or scoring a bicycle kick. So
But yeah, exactly. You hear about that sometimes too, and it's from different players that we've had a chance to talk with here on Two Up Front. At times we hear about that. Some players are like, yeah, I mean, I'm just thankful that I'm scoring a goal. I mean, as long as it, like you said, as long as it goes in, that's all that really matters. And every once in a while you do get those opportunities where it's like, yeah, it was a crazy ricochet, or I just, decided to take a shot from 40 yards out and it just happened to go in. It's like, that's just part of the game, and that's the beauty of soccer. Well, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate you taking time today. I apologize for the crazy technical difficulties that we've had, but appreciate you sticking it out with us, and best of luck to you on your season, and hopefully we can have you back on in the future as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Sounds great, Kyle. Thank you so much. Kyle Greig of Whitecaps FC here on Two Up Front. We appreciate him taking some time today. We're going to run to a break. When we come back, we've got more exciting action for you here on Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back inside the studio for another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Baxter Colburn.
And this is Simon Provan.
Alrighty, we just had a fantastic chance to speak with Kyle Greig. Very nice guy. It was a lot of fun to talk to, very open, and he bared with me through the technical difficulties. It took us about an hour, almost an hour and a half to record that 12 minutes just because his phone was working, my phone wasn't working, the internet was not working, it was working. I had to drive to a different location. We were all over the place, and we finally made it work.
Well, Baxter, I appreciate your sacrifice, and it was a fantastic interview, and I got to compliment you, partner, on your interviewing skills. I really do.
Well, thank you.
But
I appreciate it.
I really enjoyed listening to him talk about where the next possible MLS team would go if he had a choice, basically saying that there's a lot of soccer followers out there in Arizona. I just don't know if the Heat makes it worthwhile out there.
I don't know. And that's the thing I asked him, too. I said, well, what about, obviously, the Heat, because you hear about Texas, you hear about California, but at the same time, I'm like, everybody almost in MLS plays preseason in Arizona.
That's true. That's a great point.
So I was like,
that's a great point.
I'm a little surprised why there isn't one, because they've got a USL team, I think.
Arizona United, I believe.
Yeah, they've got at least like one or two tiered team. Sure, I just don't remember, but they don't have a pro team.
But two really nice interviews. Of course, we had Ellie Brush on earlier in our women's soccer spotlight, which we really enjoy. That's a commitment that we made with our relaunch is to have a focus on women's soccer. And the bigger the NWSL gets and the more prominent players come over, why shouldn't we? So it's great to have a player like Ellie Brush, Australian international.
She was funny.
She was funny.
She was real.
Great personality.
She was very real.
Very insightful too on the difference between the Australian League and the American League. Again, the NWSL. So it's really enjoyable then, and just so great that we're able to attract these people now to the show. Spend this time with them.
Exactly.
And even players like Kyle Greig, who he may not growing up in Wisconsin, but we certainly appreciate him having those Wisconsin roots. My sister-in-law is actually from Stevens Point.
Oh, really? Okay. And that's what I was telling him, too. I was like, my grandparents went to UW Stevens Point. His family's in lacrosse. I'm like, my wife's family's from lacrosse. I was like, have we ever run into each other? He's like, I don't think so. I was like, such a small world, though. You never know.
Yeah. So again, appreciate your work on the interview. And thanks to Ellie and Kyle for coming on Two Up Front.
Yes, indeed. We've got some more exciting interviews in the next couple of weeks as well. We won't reveal anything yet because we're still in the scheduling process, but we've got some more exciting interviews for you throughout the NWSL and some MLS and a gentleman that was also down at the Olympic qualifiers.
Absolutely. And, of course, we will have a local guest on very soon, if not by next week.
Exactly. And Chris Blakely, if you're listening, and Matt Evans, well, I guess we'll make time for you guys as well. Now, we want to get you guys back on the show as well. It's the whole schedule coordination thing. That's the hard part about it.
Yeah.
So, all right, but we appreciate you guys tuning in today on Two Up Front. Remember, you can listen to the show on Fridays on Sports Radio America from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on sportsradioamerica.com and on TuneIn, and then on demand anytime on Spreaker.com, on iHeartRadio, on iTunes. You can go and download the podcast, download the apps. There's multiple ways to find us. Tell your friends about us as well. For everyone that's been liking our Facebook page like crazy the last couple of days, thank you so much. You guys have been awesome. And please continue to spread the good word about Two Up Front as well. All right, Simon, it is time for a fantastic part of the show. Now, I forget where I was the other day, but I think it might have been, I was listening to or something, but I think with all the GOP and political nominations going on right now for the presidency, I think I think that was actually a chant at one of them. They're like, I believe that we will win. I was like, this is not even, it's not even the same thing.
Stop.
I don't remember who it was. Stop. It might have been Cruz, I forget who it was, or Bernie or somebody, but...
Yeah, it doesn't matter which side of the aisle we're talking
either
about.
Way.
Keep that
somebody was
specifically to soccer,
those
please.
are like the chants, like, I believe that we will win. It's like...
At the same time, it goes to show how much soccer is getting ingrained in the American culture.
That is true, yeah. I was like, okay, I guess. The one guy showed up with a scarf or something like, USA! Like, sure, we'll go with that. Well, Simon, what is your I believe for this week?
Here is my I believe. Herculez Gomez played for quite a few years in Mexico. Before that, of course, he was in MLS.
Yep.
Played for LA Galaxy. He also played in the USL. He's a man who he's the little engine that could. Well, he was dropped by TFC earlier this month, but picked up by the Sounders. And I do believe that we will see Herculez Gomez, the double Z man, make an appearance for the Seattle Sounders this weekend.
Okay, very interesting. Let's see. For me, I believe that Seattle will lose more games this year than they will win.
Chris Blakely, I'm sorry to say this, but I like that, Baxter.
I'd hope you'd like that. Yeah, I don't know why we're both going the Seattle route, but I felt...
Well, it's easy when the team has played 3 games, haven't gotten a single point. They're the worst in MLS right now, the only pointless team in MLS right now. So it's easy to go down that path.
I mean, they are pointless. Literally. No, just kidding. I don't know. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into another edition of Two Up Front, presented by Sports Radio America. A lot of great things coming up. We will be on at a different time next week. Possibly, yeah. I'm going to Texas. I'll be down in Sports Radio America doing some broadcasting for the ABA Championships. If you like basketball, you can listen to them on Sports Radio America. So we got to figure out exactly what day and time and all that we're going to be on. And we'll just stay tuned to our website and our social media platforms. My brain stopped for a second. Goodness. But social media, where are we, Simon?
We are on Facebook, Two Up Front. Just search Two Up Front. We should pop right up. We're also on Twitter, at Two Up Front Soccer. Make sure you have the soccer on there when you're looking for us on Twitter.
Yes.
At Baxter Colburn, at Simon Provan. And,
yes,
of course,
indeed.
our website, twoupfrontsoccer.wix.com. That is wix.com/twoupfrontsoccer.
Yes, indeed. And you can email the show anytime at twoupfrontsoccer@gmail.com. And catch the show on Fridays from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on sportsradioamerica.com and on the TuneIn app, and on demand anytime, no matter where you are, in the car, in the shower, going for a walk with the dog, on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com. He's Simon Provan. I'm Baxter Colburn, with our manager being the one above. We are Two Up Front.